Part 31. My Love Simulation with Them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi. Chapter 302. Nang Xiangxi took a sip of the sports drink next to him, then tightened the bottle cap while asking questions. In addition to the belongings of Hijika Itaka, there are musical instruments belonging to Kazuri Goto and Ikuyo Kita in the room. Yeah. Not just me, but also Kita-chan, Ryo, and Little Lonely. The feeding was finally over. With some reluctance in his heart, Ujizi Hungzia put down the porcelain spoon and explained, Kita-chan, Ryo, and Little Loneliness went to the next street to buy things, because Nang Xiang-san has run out of ingredients for cooking at your home. As she spoke, she stood up and put the casserole and porcelain spoon into the sink for cleaning. We haven't eaten yet. We originally planned to have them come back after shopping and eat together when Nang Xiang-san wakes up. She quickly finished washing the things and put them on the sink to wait for the water to drain. At the same time, she took out a fruit knife and an apple. The bright red apple skin was peeled off in thin lines by the girl. I see. Nang Xiangxi nodded slightly. Fortunately, the one who stayed to take care of him was Ijishi Hungzia. If the person left to take care of her is Ms. Yamada. Nang Xiangxi felt that there was a high probability that this guy would finish the consolation gifts brought by everyone. It's really troublesome, Ichiki-san. Standing up, Nang Xiang nodded gratefully towards Ichi Hungzia. He was indeed very grateful to Yiji Hongxia. I have a high fever today. If the other party hadn't come to take care of him in time, there might have been an accident. At the same time, this can be regarded as a wake-up call for Nang Xiangxi. Don't think that a body with an exercise value of 8 will not get sick. He said words of thanks. Then I saw that Yiji Hongxia's expression seemed a little shy. What's wrong? Is there anything you want to say? Ichiki-san. That, Nang Xiang-san. Suddenly the voice was raised. Yeah, I'm here. Nang Xiangxi responded. Can you, able. Who? Take a deep breath and gather your courage. Nango-san would call Little Lonely 1 mile, Yamada Ryo, and then Kita-chan Ikuyo, but he only added the honorific title to me. Oh, so that's what happened. It dawned on me when I was in Nangxiang. He thought it was a big deal. Calling Ijishi Hungzia Ijishi-san is actually his respect for this blonde girl. After all, the other person is different from Kazuri Goto, Ryo Yamada, and Ikuyo Kita. He is very steady in his work and speech, giving people a sense of reliability. But it must be that this kind of respect creates some distance from other people's titles. That's why the other person is so uncomfortable. Thinking of this, Nang Xiangxi said hello simply. I understand, from now on I will call you Hungzia. You can also call me whatever you want. Adding honorifics always feels weird. It was affirmed by Nang Xiangxi. Yi De knew that Hongxia was in a good mood. Even the ponytail on that side jumped twice. She was indeed the one who took the initiative to stay and take care of her. But she actually has her own selfish motives in her heart. That is, although it may not be as close as in the memory fragments. But she still wants to get closer to the other person. And now, distance from that goal. It should be considered closer. Her mood improved. With her naturally generous personality, her previous shyness was completely gone at this moment. Peel the apple, then cut it into several pieces, insert toothpicks, and place them in front of Nang Xiangxi. Ujizi Hungzia just wanted to get closer and continued to say something with a smile. Then. It's so cold, so cold, so cold. The door suddenly opened, and the uninvited guest who broke in from the outside interrupted Ichiki Hunka's next actions. The girl with short dark blue hair exhaled white air and walked into the room from the outside. But once you enter this room, her expression changed even more. It's so cold. The conditions of low-rent housing are average. As the temperature in Tokyo has dropped suddenly, the thermal insulation effect is naturally mediocre. She shivered. Then without hesitation, he walked with his legs wrapped in black stockings, ran into Nan Xiangshi's arms, and then sat down quickly. So warm. With such a sound of satisfaction, Ms. Yamada put her cold red palms into the pocket of Nan Xiangshi's pajamas. The warmth that hit her instantly caused her frowning expression to instantly melt, and her buttocks moved inward, as if she was about to shrink into Nan Xiangshi's arms. Nan Xiangshi. Liang. What are you doing? Shijun's condition has just stabilized, don't mess around. Nan Xiang spoke before he could wait. Yuji knew that Hengxia had already taken the initiative to pull out Miss Yamada, who was about to retreat further into Nan Xiang's arms. Why? Yamada Ryo made a dissatisfied sound. But after taking a look at Nan Xiangshi's face, he reluctantly stood up and sat on the quilt beside the bed. Just at this time, Goto Kazuri and Kita Ikuyo also walked in from outside. Feeling the temperature that was almost the same as the temperature outside, both of them couldn't help but shiver. It's winter. This residence in Nangxiangshi really didn't look like a place where humans could survive. It was just when everyone was sorting themselves out and trying to find a warmer place to sit down. I said so. Ms. Yamada, who was hugging Nangxiang's pillow and inhaling the scent fiercely, raised half of her pretty face. Instead of living in a place like this, why not stay at my house? There are still a lot of empty rooms anyway. In front of everyone, Ms. Yamada put forward her opinion nonchalantly. Chapter 224. The band members have a party together. 4,100 words. The room in the tenement house was cold. As winter has gradually entered, the entire low-rent house was blown by the cold wind that came from nowhere, making a woo-woo sound. The weather conditions are already not optimistic. Then Ms. Yamada said casually, instead of living in a place like this, it's better to stay at my house. Words further caused the overall atmosphere in the room to become colder. Especially the performances of Ikuyo Kita and Najika Itaka. Ikuyo Kita, who had just entered the room and was still rubbing his hands in the cold, blinked his eyes. Sakura's lips were slightly opened, as if he couldn't believe what Ryo Yamada said. Yujizi Hengxia was still peeling apples, but her movements stopped. Goto Kazuri, who didn't speak much, was keenly aware of the changes in his two friends and besties. Sure enough, something is really wrong. Ichisato Goto looked at Ikuyo Kita and Najika Ijishi. Because Yamada Ryo has always been free-spirited, he often says some particularly unrealistic words according to his temper. If it were the former Itaka Hikaru and Kita Ikuyo. At this point, he must have no hesitation in speaking out and refuting the other party. But now the two people fell into silence, their expressions stiff. This made Ichiri Goto, who was wearing pink sportswear, swallowing his saliva. This performance. She couldn't help but have a bold idea in her heart. Since the last time, the memory of marrying Nangxiang with everyone came to my mind. There has always been something wrong with Ichiki Hunka and Kita Ikuyo. Is it possible? Hunka-chan and Kita-san also have memories with Toki just like me? This possibility is too high. It can also almost perfectly explain the reason for the recent disagreement between Itaka Nihonka and Kita Ikuyo. If that's the case. Originally, in my own memory, I had fallen in love with Ijishi Hunka and Kita Ikuyo when they were in Nango. I guess the current process will be greatly accelerated as a result, right? Although, even though I married Ashi with everyone, I don't feel disgusted. But. Goto Kazuri, who has not yet been able to confirm his relationship with Nangxiangshi, is extremely uneasy. In her memory, she did win in the end and married Nangxiangshi. But in reality, the relationship between me and Ashi is no more than a close relationship above friends. What if Kita Ikuyo and Ijichi Honka were involved? Then her already insignificant sense of existence. Her presence is like a balloon that explodes without leaving a trace when poked with a needle. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi. Chapter 303. Even thinking about it to the extreme. Maybe it's not like how it develops in memory. In reality, Nango Toki would be directly attracted by the more dazzling Kita Ikuyo and Ajishi Hakeza, thus forgetting her existence. Just at the thought that this might happen, Goto Ichiri's eyes, which were hidden under his two long bangs, instantly flashed with panic. But she still had to try to stay calm. At least she couldn't let others see her current mood swings, especially Ashi. She secretly made up her mind. Then. Huh? Ili. What's wrong with you? You don't look good. Huh? Not very good. No. Goto Kazari responded calmly. No? Why are your hands shaking so hard without you? Nangxiangshi couldn't help but glance at each other. I saw Ichiri Goto holding a water glass. The water glass was already shaking and dancing in her palm. The water that was originally full in the glass was now spilled all over the table. Ah! Letting out an exclamation, Goto Ichiri apparently noticed his subconscious action. He quickly bent down and wiped the table with a towel. Nangxiangshi. Shaking his head, Nangxiangshi said, Liang, although I know you are just talking nonsense, it's better not to make such jokes randomly. What if Yamada Ryo asked her father to help find good and cheap rental houses? Then Nangxiangshi is still willing to believe it? Can you live in her house? Even if Ms. Yamada is willing, her parents are unlikely to be willing, right? I didn't say anything nonsense. Yamada Ryo continued to speak expressionlessly, as long as you want to live in my house, I can take care of my parents' affairs. Just tell them. How can it be possible to just say it, ugh? Nangxiang stopped talking midway through his words. Because he thought of Yamada's parents who doted on Yamada Ryo's character. You must know that the last time Miss Yamada suddenly visited his house at 11 o'clock in the middle of the night and stayed at his house, she only made a phone call to Yamada's parents. If only she were willing to lower her head and ask. With the controlling character of Yamada's parents and daughter, it's really not impossible. How about it? Come and stay at my house. He fell into silence when he saw Nanxiang. Yamada Ryo blinked his amber eyes, then stood up and said excitedly, after living in my house, I will use half of my monthly pocket money for Shifen, and then we can sleep together when we have time, how about it? Don't hesitate, woohoo. She only spoke half of her words. At some point, Hungzia Ichiki came around behind her and blocked her mouth. Okay, you guy, stop saying anything that is unrealistic. There is no way Shijun will agree to your request. The blushing Ijishi Hunka glared at Yamada Ryo, who was still struggling. Besides, you are only high school students, so it is too early to live together. That's right, that's right. Kita Ikuyo also took advantage of this moment to speak. Ryo-senpai just likes to say some impossible words. Ichisato-chan must feel the same way, right? Huh? Oh, All three people who ended the band have spoken out. This undoubtedly means that the plan of living together shamelessly with Miss Yamada has been shelved. I feel a little sorry for this in Nangxiang. He himself was quite curious about what was actually going on inside the Yamada family's mansion, so he was a little regretful that he couldn't see it with his own eyes. I am definitely not sorry that what Ms. Yamada said about sleeping together when we have time cannot come true. He is the most beautiful boy in Tokyo. No, he should be the most beautiful boy in the world now. How could I feel regretful that I couldn't sleep together when I have time with Ms. Yamada? People who are addicted to desire are the most useless. He once again took out the famous words of caution and reminded himself severely, and then heard Ichiki Hungzia's thinking voice. Although that's what I say, Shikun, you really can't continue to live in this low-rent house. I know this. Nangxiangshi nodded in affirmation. I definitely can't live here any longer. Winter has just begun in Tokyo, and now this low-rent house is already a little too cold to stay in. If we wait until winter completely sets in, when the first snow falls in Tokyo, won't this room immediately turn into an ice cellar? He didn't want to sleep in an ice cellar yet, so he had already made preparations to find a good house in Tokyo. But it is not so easy to find a house with good quality and affordable price in a good location. Tokyo is huge though. For those who live with their salary, the sky is surprisingly small. So that's what I was thinking. Originally, he wanted to sit down cross-legged, but then he thought that Nang Xiangxi was here, and this action was not very elegant. Yujizi Hongzia knelt down and said with a serious expression, "Why don't Chikun come and live at my place?" As soon as she said these words, the originally lively atmosphere suddenly fell into silence. Everyone will look at it. Hongzia, you are so cunning. You obviously don't live with me on time. In the silence, Yamada Ryo, who spoke calmly, spoke first. No, no. Itaki Hongzia glared at Yamada Ryo, I mean, let Toki-kun live in the Stars exhibition hall. Oh. Listening to Yiji Hongzia's words, Nang Xiangxi became obviously interested. Go and stay at the Stars performance hall. His attention shifted when he felt Nang Xiang. Yujizi Hongzia didn't give in and started to explain. As mentioned before, the Stars performance hall consists of a basement level and an above-ground level. The basement level is the exhibition hall itself. On the ground floor, in addition to the room used as the kitchen of the Stars exhibition hall, there is another large empty room. It's just that there is a small warehouse on the basement floor, so I just put some sundries there, and they are not used at all. The ventilation and sunlight conditions are okay. There are windows that can be opened, but there is no balcony. So the clothes probably need to be dried in a dryer. Yidiji Hongxia paused, then continued. If Shijun wants to use it, you can use the key to enter that room from the ground floor. There is usually no one there, but it may be a little noisy at night when the Stars are operating. The white fingers cutely made a little bit gesture. Nang Xiangxi was mentally prepared for this. After all, the underground floor is the Stars performance hall. Even if soundproofing has been done, it is estimated that there will still be some vibrations. But Nang Xiang didn't care either. He was not an early bed person to begin with. Before there were simulators, I would read 9 to 10 o'clock just by reading a book. Now that we have a simulator to carry out simulations, plus we have to give test questions to the closing band, we guarantee that we will go to bed between 10 and 11 o'clock. Itaki Hongzia's worries were actually completely unnecessary. Only. Are the store manager and Hongzia troubled? Out of politeness, Nang Xiangxi asked anyway. No, there would have been no use for that place. I see. Nang Xiangxi nodded thoughtfully. He was indeed moved. The location of the Stars exhibition hall is very good. Walking more than 100 meters from the door is Shimokitazawa Station, which is very convenient. In addition, it is surrounded by commercial streets, unlike where he lives now, where there is only one convenience store within half a kilometer. The only drawback is probably the commercial street. There are a lot of college students wandering around at night, which makes it noisy. But this only drawback is nothing compared to the first two advantages. After all, it is basically impossible to find a perfect house in Tokyo. Unless you really have enough money on hand. Think of this. Nang Xiangxi also spoke without hesitation. In this case, please go back to Hongzia and ask the store manager to discuss the rent issue. Forget the rent, sister, she probably won't care too much. No, it's better to seek advice in this regard. Nang Xiangxi shook his head. It is safer to be more clear about money. This is true even if he has a very good relationship with Yuji Hongzia and Yuji Zinga. Good. Seeing Nang Xiang's attitude, Yuji Hongzia did not continue to insist on her opinion and just nodded. The discussion on the house is over. Nang Xiang had almost regained his energy. The rest fell into place. Because everyone rushed to Nang Xiangxi's home as soon as get out of class was over. By this time they were also a little hungry. Especially Miss Yamada, who simply didn't let go of Nang Xiang when she hugged him, and insisted on letting him cook as a reward to take care of him. One thing to say. From the time he got sick until now, Nang Xiangxi only saw Yi Jihongxia taking care of him. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi. Chapter 304. He had never seen a shadow of Miss Yamada. But Miss Yamada, who didn't care about anything except music, came to visit me specially today. Nan Xiangxi didn't care about these trivial details, and took the initiative to get up to cook when Yi Jihongxia stopped him. What you need to do is actually not complicated. Just by taking a look at the ingredients, Nang Xiangxi knew what he was doing and was able to cook it easily. During this period, all the work that required contact with water was completed by Ichiki Hongxia. Although the other person is usually so caring and considerate. But today she was a little too concerned. This made Nang Xiangxi couldn't help but look at the other party more while making the food. It's not an illusion. My feelings in Nang Xiang have always been sharp. He clearly noticed it. The blonde girl seemed to be observing the stew in the pot. In fact, her eyes would glance towards him from time to time. Except for the blonde girl. There is another person who is equally worthy of his attention. Kita Ikuyo. These two ended the band Yang Ang. Although I usually respect him a lot. But today is obviously a little different. If Ichiki Hongxia is paying too much attention, then Ikuyo Kita is a little evasive. I noticed the moment when my eyes turned away. She looked away in panic and turned her head to the other side. Something's wrong. After sending the band members off, Nang Xiang stroked his chin and raised his eyebrows. Something is definitely wrong. If Ichiri Goto or Ryo Yamada had such a reaction, it would be considered normal. But those were Ijishi Hikaru and Kita Ikuyo. Although the relationship between myself and these two people in the simulation is inseparable. But this is the real world. Could it be that the memory of the personal simulation has flowed into their minds? When Nang Xiang returned to the room and sat down, he glanced at the simulation page. From the last time Miss Yamada came to him at 11 o'clock in the middle of the night, he already understood that simulating in person would transfer memories into the simulated object. But that's only a simulation object. Itaka Nihonka and Kita Ikuyo are not counted as simulation objects by the simulator. Logically speaking, they should have no memory. Wrong. Nang Xiangxi shook his head. He did not forget the special case of Inu Takina. It is also not a simulation object, but it has simulation memory. But if that's the case, that would be great fun. Recalling the attitudes of Hikaru Itaki and Ikuyo Kita towards him, Nango muttered with a straight face. Is it possible that we really want to become band members and have a party together? Chapter 225. I'm so sorry for giving me the first time. 8,000 words. Is it really going to end up being a band party? Sitting in front of the small round table, Nang Xiangxi was thinking. It's normal for Ichiki Honka and Kita Ikuyo to have a crush on him. After all, I also helped end the band a lot. Even according to the process in the original simulation. In fact, these two girls would fall in love with him when they were tutoring for the band. But in reality, this love was due to the active declaration of love between Yamada Ryo and Goto Izato. As a result, the good feelings between the two of them have been hidden, and they have always maintained a good relationship with Nang Xiangxi. But the memory transfer simulated in person is like a fuse. It suddenly ignited the thoughts of Hongxia Itaki and Ikuyo Kita, who already had a good impression of him. With this analysis, There shouldn't be much of a problem. Nang Xiang's fingers clicked. He is not a fool who is insensitive to other people's feelings in romantic comedies. He can naturally feel other people's good impressions of him. But if it really turns out to be a situation where the 4 members of the band fall in love with him at the end of the simulation, then don't hesitate. Nang Xiangxi didn't think too much at all and simply expressed his attitude. Just like in the simulation, it was delayed for more than 10 years, and it took more than 10 years for Ijishi Hikaru, Kita Ikuyo, and Yamada Ryo to wait for more than 10 years before accepting their. That's the epitome of indecisiveness. In reality, he knew that such a thing would happen, but if he still did it, that would be a pure idiot. Think of this. Nang Xiangxi turned to look out the window. In fact, except for Ikuyo Kita and Hijika Ijishi, what he cared more about was actually the pink-haired girl. Today she was surprisingly talkative. Although she usually doesn't have much time to talk, she is not as restless and taciturn as she is today. That is to say, at the dinner table just now, Nang Xiang asked her a few questions about her current situation, and she answered in a low voice while she was in a daze. That familiar feeling of unease and humility. Although several members of the closing band present did not feel it. But as Nango, who had spent several weeks simulating with Goto Kazuri, and even used the last simulator in person, he could clearly sense her emotional changes. It's worrying. Nang Xiangxi stood up and turned to look out the window. During this time, Goto Ichiri's symptoms of social fear and low self-esteem have actually been greatly alleviated. Although I didn't use the data detector to actually check it, I could actually feel it in Nang Xiang. But today, Goto Ichiri's performance made Nang Xiang a little concerned. I really don't know what that girl who is extremely sensitive, who always suddenly falls into despair, and suddenly becomes alone and has low self-esteem, what is she thinking about now? What on earth is Goto Ichiri thinking? Standing alone on the platform waiting for the train, she was looking ahead. The hazy neon night view of Tokyo seemed to reflect her messy heart. Hunka-chan, and Kita-san, if nothing else happens, they should already have memories, right? Standing by the platform, she recalled the people who had just boarded the tram and waved goodbye to her. The thin strap of the shoulder bag was pinched unconsciously. An emotion called a sense of crisis began to arise in my heart, like a haze. As it is now, she is not the only one with memories. The other girls all have memory fragments. Only now did Goto Kazuri understand how cowardly I have been to subconsciously avoid the feelings in my heart. She is the first person to have happy memories with Nang Xiang. He was also the first person to confirm his inner feelings for Nang Xiangxi. But even with such an advantage, she never officially confessed her feelings to Nang Xiangxi. He just blindly escapes and subconsciously uses excuses such as social fear and inferiority to get the other person's attention. If it was Ryo Yamada? If it were Ijishi Hongxia? What if it was Ikuyo Kita? They have many times more courage than themselves, even more than that. Goto raised his head and looked at the train approaching in the distance. Bang bang, bang bang. The crisp sound seemed to hit her heart. She never regretted having more memories of her time with Nang Xiang in her mind. I am even more grateful that I was able to take the initiative to become friends with myself who had low self-esteem and was weak when I was in Nang Xiang. So, how long will I have to be cowardly? Just staying where you are and unwilling to move forward will probably never get results. Goto Ichisato closed his eyes. She recalled every bit of her time with Nang Xiang in the memory fragments. This is a treasure that only belongs to her who lives in a dark and humid corner. She thought maybe she shouldn't continue to be cowardly this time. Take your phone out of your shoulder bag. Dial number. Hello? Mom, I'm staying at Hongxia's house tonight and won't be going home. Okay, okay. Brief exchange. The pink-haired girl took a deep breath and turned around. Ignore the train on its way back. Return step by step along the original path. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Ziwei. Chapter 305. Nangxiang was a little surprised. A little surprised indeed. Because he didn't expect it at all. Goto Kazuri, who was supposed to go home, actually turned back to him. Didn't catch the last train. After glancing at the time of 10:30 on his phone, Nangxiang turned to look at the pink-haired girl who remained silent. The pink-haired girl responded softly and nodded. But if Nangxiang remembers correctly, the last train in Tokyo should stop running at 11 o'clock. Why would Ichiri go to tell such an obvious lie? Nangxiang shook his head. The girl's usual obedient behavior in front of him meant that he didn't particularly care about the answer to this question. After all, any reason is possible. It's possible that you were just worried about your condition, so you went back specifically to take care of yourself. It is also possible that the behavior of Hungzia and Kita today made this often sensitive girl feel uneasy, so in order to find comfort and support, she wanted to stay in her own home temporarily today. He did not delve into this point, but just said, "Have you notified your parents?" Ili. Notified. The eyes hidden under the pink bangs trembled slightly, and the girl nodded. "It's good now that we've informed you." After hearing this, Nangxiang nodded with peace of mind, but soon he was in trouble. There isn't much of a problem with washing and pajamas. Because of his own habits, he always prepares 2 or 3 extra sets of toothbrushes and pajamas as backup. Can sleep. It's not like Akane Shinjo's last stay. The weather is obviously getting colder now. It's obviously inappropriate for Goto Ichiri to sleep on the ground. And he is considered sick now. Although the cold is almost gone, it is not impossible for the cold to relapse if you catch the cold again due to sleeping on the floor. It's a bit difficult. Nangxiang raised his eyebrows. However, in order to prevent Goto Ichiri from seeing that he was in a bit of trouble, he still joked with a smile, "It would be great if Ichiri is willing to sleep on the bed with me, so that none of us have to sleep on the floor." This is a joke on Goto Ichiri's routine. Normally, Goto Ichiri would turn extremely red and lower his head after hearing these words. Nangxiang didn't care, he just prepared pajamas for her while thinking about what to do next. Then. Goto Ichiri's voice, although not loud, was enough to reach Nangxiang's ears in this small low-rent house. But her words of expression made Nangxiang look at her pretty face. Under incandescent light. That fair and delicate face, with slightly transparent edges and lowered, seemingly shy eyes, made her look indescribably pure and seductive. "Ili, what did you just say?" To make sure he heard correctly, Nangxiang put down his pajamas. "Sleep in bed together, no problem." "Ah. Is there something wrong with me or is there something wrong with Miss Goto today?" That Miss Goto who was usually shy if she spoke to him more, and blushed if she got closer to her. "You actually said something like, 'We'll sleep in the bed together, no problem.'" Just as Nangxiang was about to say something more, he saw the pink-haired girl in pink sportswear standing up, taking the pajamas away from him, and hurriedly ran into the bathroom. Nangxiang. This kind of performance is considered appropriate. But Ichiri Goto's abnormal behavior just now. Nangxiang gently rubbed the center of his brows, looked at the bathroom again, shook his head, and began to prepare other daily necessities for her. About half an hour later, the bathroom door was opened. Goto Kazuri walked out of it. Her slightly damp hair shone under the incandescent lamp, and her exposed neck, which had just come out of the bath, had a hint of pink in her white skin. The girl just stretched her waist slightly, and Nangxiang could appreciate the beauty and plumpness like cherry blossoms blooming in spring. As expected, he is the one who plays the leading figure in the band. The men's pajamas I gave myself as a spare when I was in Nangxiang were relatively large, so I put them on with Goto's height. The sleeves were a bit longer and the trouser legs were also a bit longer. The whole thing seems to be loose. But the baggy here refers only to the sleeves and trouser legs. Nang Xiangxi could clearly feel the tightness of her loose pajamas on her chest and buttocks. Is that suitable? Only half of her white hands were exposed, which looked particularly cute. The pink-haired girl lowered her head and asked in a low voice how she felt when Nan Xiang was in front of her. Very suitable. Nang Xiang looked away. It's a good fit indeed. Even in a sense, there are some fouls. Even he needed considerable perseverance to take his eyes away from Gotu Ichiri. Today's Gotu Ichiri can be felt in Nango. The other party is much bolder than usual. Such a proactive attack would be difficult for even the most beautiful boy in the world with his self-discipline to control. After taking a shower, Ichiri Gotu blow-dried his hair. During this period, Nang Xiang was still thinking about how to allocate the bunks. But after thinking for a long time, there is still no good solution. After all, the conditions are here. Finally, he sighed and prepared to stand up, drag out the extra bedding from the closet next to him, and sleep on the floor. But, Ashi, what are you doing? A curious voice came from behind. Huh? Oh, I sleep on the ground. You can sleep on my bed. Nang Xiangxi turned around. Don't you want to sleep with me? Goto Ichisato's body leaned forward slightly, her delicate and fair chest was revealed in front of Nang Xiang. The girl's boldness and dazzling white collarbone made Nang Xiang feel dizzy. What happened to this pink-haired girl who fears low self-esteem today? Did you take the wrong medicine? Actually using this posture to test him. But I have to say, it's really effective. Nan Xiangxi looked away with great willpower. In fact, it was not just Nang Xiang who was a bit unexpected. Now Goto Ichiri is also full of confusion. She had no idea what she was doing. It felt like her body and person had been separated, and a huge sense of shame hit her. But she still has to move forward. At least you can't retreat from a place like this. Toki's cold is just right. No matter what, you can't sleep on the ground. Goto Ichisato raised his head and looked at Nang Xiang. Nang Xiangxi. What the other party said made sense. He didn't want to have a delirious experience like today again. And even Ili, who was usually a little shy when speaking more words, spoke like this. As a boy, if he retreats again and again at this time. This is a bit inappropriate no matter how you think about it, right? Okay. Nang Xiang no longer hesitated. Because he can sense it? Even if he continues to refuse, Goto Kazuri will never stop here. In this case, it is better to comply with her wishes. Turning off the incandescent light, Goto Kazuri went to bed with a somewhat uneasy feeling. Then she felt Nang Xiangxi slowly get into the quilt after her. There was already a chill inside the quilt. Because the two of them joined, not only was it not as cold as expected, but it was a little warm. In the darkness, Goto Ichiri's face turned slightly red. Because Nan Xiangxi's back was turned to her, she couldn't see Nan Xiangxi's face clearly, but at this time, she could clearly hear his breathing and smell his scent. I actually slept in the same bed as Nang Xiangxi. Just the thought of it. Goto Ichisato's face turned red quickly. But it's still a bit crowded for two people to sleep in the same bed. Her body subconsciously moved forward. 1 mile. Nang Xiangxi's voice came from the front. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiu Dao Yu de Ziwei. Chapter 306. Mainly because there was nothing he could do if he didn't speak. Because Ichisato Goto's plump breasts had been pressed tightly against his back without knowing it. Although it does feel wonderful to the touch. But if this continues, he really feels like he won't be able to control himself. He took a slight breath of the cold air outside the quilt, and then spoke. Ili. Are you worried about something? He spoke slowly while waiting for Goto Isato's words. Something was obviously wrong with Goto Ichiri today. Too proactive. She even took the initiative and was so bold that Ms. Yamato would give a thumbs up when she saw him. So he wanted to ask, what made Ichiri Goto behave so abnormally? But after saying this, he didn't hear any sound after a long time. This made Nang Xiang feel a little strange, and he couldn't help but turn around. Through the hazy night view outside the window and the nice bright moonlight tonight, Nang Xiang saw Goto Kazuri's expression. Those crystal clear eyes were like the bright moon in the night sky, attracting his attention. An uneasy, fragile, glassy expression appeared on her face. With just one glance, Nang Xiangxi could tell that the girl did have something on her mind. And it is precisely related to the abnormal performance of Itaki Hongxia and Kita Ikuyo today. This made Nang Xiangxi couldn't help but reach out and brush her face with his palm. Is it because of Hongxia and Yude? He asked. Just listening to Nang Xiangxi's words, Goto Ichiri's eyes instinctively shrank back timidly. Actually, it's not a problem at all if you don't have to do this. Nang Xiangxi's comforting voice came out, just follow your own pace and take your time. You don't have to force yourself so much. I'm here. His voice was gentle, without any hint of reproach or complaint. Her words, as always, tolerated all her shortcomings and willfulness. But it's not enough to just move forward slowly and at your own pace. The girl spoke. There was no stammering, and her words were so firm that Nang Xiang remained silent, listening to her words, or her heart. Slowly follow your own pace, that's actually the reason I've been relying on Ashi's words as an excuse to escape. She shook her head. I actually don't blame Hongxia and Kita-san, on the contrary, I am actually very grateful to them. They made me realize how cowardly I have been all along. The love affair never progressed. Even if I asked Kita Ikuyo, it would not have a particularly big promotion effect. There were even several times when Nang Xiangxi took the initiative to contact her, giving her the courage to take the next step. But love can never be promoted by one person. Today's performance of Hikaru Itaki and Ikuyo Kita perfectly illustrates this point. Yes. She never complained about Itaki Hongxia and Kita Ikuyo. Rather, I hate myself for being stagnant and just waiting. Her long pink hair swayed. It's like a girl's mood swinging. The dim moonlight falling outside the window did not make her heart confused, but made her vision clearer and clearer. She whispered to Nang Xiangxi, actually, it's okay if you're not the first. There was no sun in her world. From kindergarten to junior high school, I was always depressed and alone, until I entered high school, met Ajishi Hongxia, and got to know Nang Xiangxi. Only then did the sun appear in her dark sky, which gradually gained color. She is unwilling to give up the sun she finally got. So, actually, to me, it doesn't matter if I'm not the first. Goto murmured words as he hugged Nang Xiang tightly. I just want to stay with Ashi. Even though the sun didn't belong to her alone, for a moment, the sun shone on her. Made her feel warm. That's enough. She mumbled her words. The moonlight cannot illuminate her face. When self-esteem overflows, it turns into gentle and quiet words. Nang Xiangxi did not continue talking. Feeling her deep love, he just caressed her face with his fingers and brushed her pink lips. Staying by my side, is this enough? Nan Xiang asked. Yes, Goto Yisato nodded and did not let go. Instead, he hugged Nang Xiang even harder. Nang Xiangxi raised his head slightly. Looking from his angle, he could just see the moon hanging in the sky. Somber yet gentle. The pure moon that only appears in the night sky. Just like Ichisato Goto. I think Ili can be a little more greedy. Nang Xiangxi gently held Goto Izato's hand. It's not just about staying by my side, it's about being with me. That's enough for now. In response, the timid pink-haired girl just shook her head gently. Just being by her side when she was in Nang Xiang was already an extremely happy thing for her. She was too timid to ask for more. This made Nangxiang a little helpless. The girl's sensitive and delicate heart made her stop here, but Nangxiang she didn't want her to stop here. Thinking about it, it will take a lot of time to correct her inferiority complex, right? When he thought of this, Nangxiang became inexplicably angry. He has been giving her courage, but this girl just grabbed a part of it and was satisfied, unwilling to be more greedy. This gave him the urge to bully the girl in front of him severely. And seemed to be aware of Nangxiangxi's thoughts. The pink-haired girl retracted half of her face into the quilt, and then she whispered, "That safety measure is in my shoulder bag." Nangxiangxi. Nangxiang looked at her. Watching her gentle face sink into the quilt, watching her only one pair of eyes staring at him secretly, and then asked, "Ili, are you sure?" She said softly. She had already made up her mind when she came here. This is my first time buying something like that at a convenience store. It had also used her utmost courage. At this time, I was having this conversation with Nangxiang. It took almost all her effort. But even so, she had no intention of backing down. Although she may not be the first in Nangxiang's heart in the future, she wants to be the first in Nangxiang's heart. She likes Nangxiangxi. Just like that, I am satisfied. She turned her head and looked out the window. The night sky in Tokyo is very nice tonight. Morning stars adorn the night sky. It's like the Milky Way flowing. It seems that the girl's mood is also tumbling up and down. The next morning. The early winter mornings are cold. Even the sky outside was pale. Nangxiangxi looked at the ceiling, his eyes slightly empty. The whole person seemed to be still thinking about what happened last night. Dash. The person who made such a confused sound was Goto Kazuri, who had a hand on his waist. The pink-haired girl was pressing tightly against his body. It could be seen that she was not awake yet. Nangxiang used great willpower to remove his palm from the girl's fair skin, thinking about the situation last night, and sighed at Goto Ichiri's gentleness and tolerance. This also made him feel more love and compassion for this girl who always had low self-esteem. But before that. Fortunately, today is Saturday. After looking at the time, Nangxiang sighed. In this situation, it is definitely impossible for Goto Kazuri to go to class. What she needs is rest. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udaziiwei. Chapter 307. He climbed up from the bed gently. Yesterday's pain disappeared without a trace like a lie. It seems that a body with a sports value of 8 has something unique about it. First, simply wash up. Later, Nangxiang came to the kitchen, made a simple breakfast, and put it on the table. Get up, Ili. After gently patting Goto Ichiri's delicate face, Nangxiangxi called out close to him. According to the simulated memory, Goto Ichiri should have made breakfast every day and then waited for him to get up to eat. But today's situation is special. Let's not worry about this for now. Nangxiangxi's call obviously had an effect. The pink-haired girl who was sleeping first wrinkled her beautiful eyebrows, and then opened her blue eyes in confusion. She. She tilted her head, yawned cutely, and stared blankly at her surroundings like a newborn baby looking at the world. Ms. Goto, who had just woken up, was obviously still a little confused. But soon, she realized something, and she let out a cry of surprise. Then he hurriedly got into the quilt. She. Huh. 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 A voice of surprise and utter embarrassment came out at this moment. The pink-haired girl has obviously passed the courageous and hot-headed stage last night, and now she is back to her usual Goto Kazuri. Her blue eyes widened. At this moment, She felt as if her brain CPU was overloaded. She, what did she do? Although there is a reason to get excited and muster up courage. But taking the initiative to do that kind of thing with Nang Xiang. And also in that shameful posture? 1 mile. At this time, Nang Xiangxi called out again. But even Nang Xiangxi's voice could no longer be heard by Godu Ichiri at this moment. Her thoughts were in disarray. Just thinking about what happened last night, his expression began to twitch unnaturally. First, he lied to his parents and said he was staying at Hengxia's house. Then when he arrived at Nang Xiang's home, he lied to Shi and said there was no last train. What else did she do after that? It seems to be tempting Shi. Me, someone like me actually tempted Shi. What on earth did I do? Godu Ichiri's whole body began to twitch unnaturally. It's over, it's over. It's all over. He actually did such a thing. I even made a special trip to a convenience store to buy safety measures. What to do? If you do such a thing, Shi won't think that I'm a slutty woman, right? It's obviously just a wild hammer snake. You actually want to monopolize the sun? Isn't this complete nonsense? Me last night? What on earth did you do? Panic. At a loss. 6 gods have no master. Godu huddled in the bed and shivered into a ball. At this moment, Nang Xiangxi, who had already prepared breakfast, walked over and lifted a corner of the quilt, revealing the girl's frightened face. Ili, what are you doing? His words were only half spoken. Then I saw Godu Ichiri suddenly turning over from the quilt. Then the whole person made a tuxia seat on him in an extremely standard posture. At the same time, it was her voice that was trembling and stuttering to the extreme. She's first time gave me such a woman. I'm so sorry. Nang Xiangxi. Nang Xiangxi couldn't help but rub his temples. He had seen Godu Kazuri in this state too many times. She is the kind of person who gets inexplicably excited and ignited when talking about deep feelings, but later realizes that she has done something stupid, so she is very shy. And is this the opposite of what I said? What does it mean that he gave her such a woman for the first time? Nang Xiangxi was amused, no need to apologize. No matter how you look at it last night, I was the one who took advantage, okay? You'd better get up and eat quickly. No. That, Shi, I. Godu Ichiri's face turned red. But she couldn't say a word for a long time, which made Nang Xiang laugh a lot. Okay, come out to eat quickly. After he said this, he returned to his seat. That calm and elegant expression seemed not to be shaken by what happened last night at all. This made Godu Ichiri's anxious mood somewhat relaxed, and at the same time, it also made her feel other feelings rising in her heart. What happened last night was definitely not a dream. But what happens in reality? I actually really had a relationship with Shi. Thinking of this, Ichiri Godu took a chance to take a bowl and glanced at Nang Xiangxi secretly. First, I looked at Nang Xiangxi's lips, and then my eyes moved across his arms. His body was well proportioned with muscles but not bloated. As she looked at it, she couldn't hold the bowl anymore. It just slipped out of my hand with a clatter. The soup inside was spilled all over the table. Ruined. Why are you so clumsy? Shi is right across the street, what will he think when he sees it? Godu Kazuri subconsciously wanted to wipe the spilled soup on the table with his hands. However, Nang Xiangxi stretched out his hand to directly stop him. I'll take care of it. I didn't burn you, did I? Ili. A clear and calm voice rang in her ears, and at the same time Nang Xiangxi grabbed her hand. Gah! This sudden intimate move made Godu Ichiri make a startled sound, like the sound of a duck being stuck in its neck. Well, it doesn't seem to be a big problem. After carefully looking at the smooth back of Godu Izato's hand, there were no traces of burns. Nang Xiangxi nodded with confidence. Then he glanced at Goto Izato, who was stunned and motionless. It was a bit funny. You even did those things last night, why are you embarrassed to hold hands today? Ili. Goto Ichiri's face turned red at this too blunt joke. He had no choice but to step aside and clean up the table while looking at Nang Xiang. During this period, she also wanted to help Nan Xiang with a towel. But he was directly rejected by Nang Xiangxi. In his words, "Don't exercise strenuously these days. If you feel any discomfort, just tell me directly. Do you understand?" This caring instruction instantly reassured Goto Kazuri, who was originally feeling a little uneasy. She is still as gentle as before, so nice. But Goto Ichiri secretly glanced at Nang Xiangxi's side face. At this time, she was a little confused again. Because she doesn't know what kind of relationship is between myself and Nang Xiangxi now. Chapter 226. I'm going to attack you little girls. 4,000 words. What is the relationship between myself and Ashi now? Now that things have happened, Goto Ichiri is confused again. Although I said last night, it's okay even if I'm not first. But from a selfish point of view, who wouldn't want to be the first? I have already done that kind of thing with Ashi. Ying should be considered the first, right? Hey. Thinking of this, the beautiful face hidden under the two long bangs revealed a silly smile. But. Goto Kazuri thought of some TV series and cartoons that he often watches. Don't there often be scenes like this in it? After some boys and girls have sex, they will say this with a look of disgust on their faces. Ha! I just did it to you once, and you feel that your relationship with me is very close. Don't be too proud. This kind of thing is very common, okay? If that's the case, my love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi. Chapter 308. Shake. Goto Ichiri's whole body trembled. Thinking about it carefully, it seems that this is really the case. It's already 2023. Ordinary female high school students have basically had some experience, right? If you have done it once or twice, maybe the accident is nothing at all, right? Goto Ichisato's eyes secretly looked at Nango from behind his two long bangs. No. But, if Ashi looked at me with that disgusting expression, scolded me, and told me not to be too proud. It seems surprisingly good. When he imagined Nang Xiang in his mind, Junya's face showed an expression of dissatisfaction and disgust. There seems to be a special contrast, the fierce Ashi is also very good. Goto Kazuri didn't know why. In addition to fear, there was also a little bit of expectation and excitement in my heart. Nang Xiang didn't notice that Goto Ichiri was unscrupulously immersed in his own world and delusional. He looked at his rice bowl and was about to ask Goto Ichiri to bring over the salt and pepper shaker on the table. I said, "Yes, I'm sorry. I just did it once, and thinking that the relationship with Ashi would become closer is really ridiculous. I'm really sorry." It was like some kind of switch had been triggered. Goto stood up suddenly and shouted loudly. Yeah, I'm sorry." Feeling Nang Xiang's surprised look, Goto Ichiri realized that he had confused his delusion with reality again. "Sorry." Nang Xiangxi looked at Goto Ichiri with a playful look. At this moment, he simply stopped taking salt and pepper, and said with a smile on his face, "So did Ili want me to do this to you?" "Why?" Having seen through his thoughts, Goto Ichiri, who was wearing pajamas, looked flustered. "It's not that, Toki." "Shut up. Goto." Rude voice. "Yes. You've been really arrogant lately." When Goto Ichiri looked at Nango, he stood up unceremoniously and stared at himself with an extremely dissatisfied expression, so scared that he could not speak. Even if you stay overnight at my house, you still use your body to seduce me. Are you reflecting on it? Bang. He slapped his palms on the table. The huge shaking sound scared Gotu and his whole body trembled. No. Not that, Ashi. Don't talk back. A vicious tone. Yes. His body tensed up the next moment, and Goto Ichiri did not dare to say any more words. Do you know how much I thought about you? The result is still so unsatisfactory and timid. I'm so mad at you. Do you want to be a widow? Woo. The pink-haired girl screamed with tears in her eyes. Paired with that beautiful face that seemed ignorant of the world, there was an indescribable sense of pure temptation. Don't cry. You loser. Starting tomorrow, I want you to work hard to play the guitar and support me. Nan Xiangxi said, raising his palm as if to strike. That look is too real. Godu couldn't help but close his eyes. However. Snap. It hurts. There was a sound of a brain collapse coming from his forehead. Godu covered his smooth forehead and looked at Nang Xiang with a look of confusion. What's that expression on your face? It was a bit funny when I was in Nang Xiang. The rudeness and fierceness just now all faded away at this moment. I just thought your reaction in Ili was quite interesting, so I deliberately teased you. Holding her face with one hand, Nang Xiangxi scratched her smooth chin with the other hand like a kitten. Hey? Oh. Listening to Nang Xiangxi's words, Gotu Ichiri finally understood what had just happened. She lowered her head in embarrassment, a little worried about gain and loss. On the one hand, it's because the young man who can be regarded as the son to him is not really as he imagined. He still treated her with the same tenderness as before. On the other hand, when the young man said, I'll start raising him tomorrow, she actually had a strong impulse in her heart to agree. Goto Ichisato let out a small sigh. When Nan Xiang took one look at her expression, he thought she was relieved, so he smiled and shook his head. I just pretended to be like that on purpose, but it was actually a more playful way of teasing between lovers. But at most it was just teasing. I really asked Ichiri Goto to play guitar and support him. Don't say anything else. Even when I was in Nangxiang, I would feel uneasy about my conscience. He quickly ate the food in front of him, and after briefly washing the dishes, he raised his head and asked, Do you have any other reservations for Ili? Huh? Well, except for band practice, there are no other plans. Unexpectedly, Nang Xiangxi would suddenly care about his next reservation. Goto Ichiri put down his job and answered obediently. As long as we don't have any other reservations. Nang Xiangxi's voice came from behind the sink, for your own good, it's better to take more rest recently. After all, Ili is now my first girlfriend. Oh, good. Goto Ichiri was still thinking about other things. When he heard Nangashi's words, he responded absently. But soon. His head jerked up. His blue eyes widened. Wait. What did Ashi just say? Girlfriend. The first one? Happiness comes so suddenly. It hit Goto Ichiri's sensitive heart hard. Her pink lips were slightly open, which was enough to show the overwhelming emotions in her heart. Any questions? Seeing Goto Ichiri's dull expression, Nang Xiang squinted his eyes and asked with a smile. No. She, that. Nothing surprising. Nan Xiangxi wiped the water droplets off his hands, and then when the girl let out an exclamation, he hugged her into his arms. Seeing the light and plump girl blushing in his arms, Nang Xiang thought of the sky that was also red at sunset in summer. He placed his hands on the girl's plump and elastic thighs maliciously, came close to her ear, smelled the good smell emanating from her hair, and whispered. It's too late to regret it now, you are already mine. Goto Ichiri's face turned red, but he still nodded lightly and said Nan Xiang was very satisfied with the girl's attitude. After putting her down, he nonchalantly changed into his going out clothes in front of her, who was blushing and at a loss, and then spoke. I made an appointment with Hongxia, and I'm going to look at the room now. Please help me look after the house. Ichiri Goto is obviously having difficulty moving now. Nangxiang did not force her to go out with him. After smiling and saying a few more words to her, he got up and set off towards the station. It's been said before. It actually doesn't take long to get from Nango Tokiya to Shimokitazawa station. I got on the tram at my usual pace. Then I sat in the carriage and waited for a while. Shimokitazawa station, Shimokitazawa station, Shimokitazawa station is here. Along with the radio broadcast. When Nangxiang got off the tram, the cold wind that hit him made him exhale. Already said before. Winter has completely entered Tokyo. The entire sky is no longer blue as usual, but a vast expanse of white. After the wind and rain the night before. The leaves of the trees on the street are half withered, and the bare trunks are a bit glaring. There are quite a lot of people on the whole road in Shimokitazawa. After all, today is a rare Saturday. Office workers and college students have time to go out and hang out. This may also be the reason. On the short journey to the Stars Performance Hall, Nangxiang declined 3 groups of female college students nearby. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi. Chapter 309. Sighing at the initiative of the Japanese students, Nangxiang finally came to the Stars Performance Hall. But before Nangxiang could wait, he opened the door. A voice came from behind, "Oh, it's the Nangxiang guy." This voice is somewhat familiar. So much so that Nangxiang couldn't help but turn his head and look. And that's what turned his head. A strong smell of alcohol rushed towards him. At the same time, there was a figure of a woman with dark purple braids rushing towards him. In this regard, Nangxiang's actions were also very straightforward. Sideways. Lift your legs. Control intensity. Kick him over. Ah! Hiroikiri couldn't help but let out a cry of pain as she was kicked directly on the butt by Nangashi's merciless action. Ah, hello, Sister Julie. Just for a moment, I thought some insects were flying over. It was a subconscious reaction. I'm sorry. Nangxiang apologized in an unapologetic tone. Liar. Brother Nangxiang knew it was me from the beginning, right? Apologize. Apologize now. Oh. Sorry. Nangxiang apologized expressionlessly. You guy dash. Listening to Nangxiang's apology, which was not sincere at all, Hiroikiri rubbed her butt. She couldn't believe it. Would an ordinary boy react like this when seeing a beautiful big sister like her jumping at her and kicking her away? It's simply impossible, right? Just as she was about to say something, she couldn't help but blink her eyes and looked up and down at Nangxiang curiously. What's wrong? Being looked at by Hiroikiri with a particularly dazzling gaze, Nangxiang asked back. Hiroikiri said in a long voice, how should I put it, he looks the same as the usual Nango guy, but the atmosphere he gives people is completely different. She got closer and even turned to greet Ichi Hoshige and Miss Pa, who had just walked down the stairs. Senior, there's still a Pa. Come and take a look. Does Nangxiang brother give people a completely different feeling? You guy, are you talking about something weird again? As usual, Ichiki Hoshige complained in an impatient voice and glanced at Nangxiang with his eyebrows furrowed. At this moment, Nangxiang also turned his eyes. Yi Zinga blinked. She also sensed something was wrong from the Nangxiang in front of her. But what exactly is wrong? She was a little speechless again. Fortunately, at this time, Miss Pa smiled and said, well, it feels more mature? Or more masculine? Anyway, it gives people a completely different feeling. Yes, yes. It's the kind of feeling where I'm already very attractive to some ignorant little girls, but now I've become even more sexy. Hiroikairi was in full agreement with Ms. Pa's words. She hugged her chest and nodded in approval. What is this woman who remains a spinster in the simulation well into her 40s talking about? Don't talk about people like succubi. Several girls in their 20s gathered around, staring at Nang Xiangxi curiously and discussing. Nan Xiangxi shook his head and didn't care much about this. Then I'll go in first, Miss Pa, and the store manager said hello. He opened the door directly and entered among the stars. At this time, among the stars, Ijichi Honka, Yamada Ryo, and Kita Ikuyo were busy cleaning. Since they didn't come to Fangxing yesterday, they both went to work early today. When I came in when I saw Nang Xiang, Yujizi Hongxia just raised her head and smiled, ready to say hello. But the next second, when she looked at Nang Xiang, she couldn't help but be stunned. Good afternoon, Hongxia. Walking forward, Nan Xiangxi took the initiative to say hello. Hey? Ah, good afternoon, Toki-kun. Ichiki Hunker responded blankly, and while looking at Nango, walked deeper to say hello to Kita Ikuyo and Yamada Ryo, who were also stunned. What happened? Yamada Ryo put his hands on the handle of the mop, his expressionless face was crooked, and he blushed unconsciously. I always feel, Toki's today, is a bit strange. For this sentence, Yujizi Hongxia agreed. It was obviously just a night apart. Why do you feel that the charm of young people has increased sharply? He just walked over and said hello with a smile. It made her chest feel like a deer bumping around. Kita Ikuyo's face was also red, nodding his head beside him. Nango-san and I took the initiative to say hello just now, it feels completely different from usual. They quietly discussed the changes in Nang Xiang. At this time, Hiroikairi, who had just entered the stars next to her, also made a voice, surely you guys feel the same way. Everyone looked towards her subconsciously. Then I saw her speaking with a particularly determined expression. It must be that one. The Nang Xiang succubus finally couldn't suppress his charm and is going to attack you little girls. Tisk, tisk, it's really scary. Chapter 227. Anyway, you have to do it with me from now on. 4,100 words. At last. The words of Hiroikairi, an unreliable adult, were not taken seriously by anyone present. In fact, although Nang Xiangxi was more manly and charming than before, he did not give up the work he was supposed to do. This made Yamada Ryo, Itaka Hikaru, and Kita Ikuyo feel relieved. In other words, he is more attractive than before. All adolescent boys are like this. Don't even care. They thought optimistically while accepting today's tutoring in Nang Xiang. Speaking of which, I didn't come here even a mile today. After checking the time and having finished all today's test papers, Kita Ikuyo spoke curiously. You must know that even if there is someone who is late, it will always be Yamada Ryo. And it's already past 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Goto Ichiri hadn't come over yet, this of course made her a little worried. Ah! Little Lonely asked for leave today. Putting down the rock band magazine he was flipping through, Ichi Hoshige poked his head out and answered, the specific reason is not clear. It seems that she is not feeling well, but she also told me on the phone and said that there is no need to bother you to visit her. Rest. 1 day should be enough. Yesterday it was Shijun, today is Xiao Lonely. Itaka Hongxia put down the mechanical pencil, but of course you will feel uncomfortable if the season changes suddenly. I don't know if it is serious or not. The fact that I can take the initiative to send messages probably won't be that serious. Kita Ikuyo was also very concerned about Goto Ichiri, so he took out his cell phone and sent 2 messages. After getting the other person's reply, feel a little relieved. Only Yamada Ryo beside him lazily held his chin, his amber eyes flashing with light. She thought thoughtfully and said, speaking of which, I seem to smell the smell of loneliness on my body today. Could it be that? Well. The mechanical pencil lead is broken. Hearing the words of his wicked bassist, Ijishi Hungzia, who hadn't thought too much at first, couldn't help but start thinking along the other person's train of thought at this moment. Indeed. Today she also smelled Goto Ichiri's scent on Nangoshi's body. But she didn't pay attention, thinking that it might have been a little contaminated by Goto Ichiri's visit yesterday. But if we follow Yamada Ryo's thinking, maybe something happened to Nango Tokuma and Goto Kazuri after they left. It's not impossible. Itaka knows that Hungzia, who has memory fragments, actually knows it very well. Although Goto Kazuri looks timid and cowardly, in a sense, she is the boldest one. Otherwise, Kazuri Goto wouldn't have become the first girl to confirm her relationship with Nango after the band ended. Probably he was aware of what Yijizi Hungzia was thinking. At this time, Miss Yamada seemed to have thought of something again, and added next to her, maybe Tokiwa Ichiri became a god last night. Become. Goto. Yijizi Hungzia's eyes widened. A terrifying heat suddenly appeared on his face. Become a god. Nango Toki and Goto Iri? Both of them? Goto Kazuri asked for leave. The state of Nangxiang was much different than usual. Put these two together. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi. Chapter 310. Maybe it's just like what Ryo Yamada said. Ijishi Hungzia's pink lips trembled, and her golden side ponytail began to jump. How is it possible? Toki-kun and Iriko are both still high school students. Next to him, Ikuyo Kita was also stimulated by the overly explicit words, his face turned red and he lowered his voice. What's impossible? In order to become a god with she, I have read many surveys. More than 60% of Japanese high school students have the experience of becoming a god. Should I say that she is worthy of Miss Yamada? Even though he talked a lot about this topic, his expression remained unchanged, and his voice didn't even tremble at all. Her words made Hungzia Itaki and Ikuyo Kita shrink back timidly. The two of them wanted to stop this talkative girl with short dark blue hair, but they were a little curious about where and what basis she had for saying these things. Curiosity and shyness. Doubts and curiosity. Several different emotions mixed together. Then. What are you discussing? Huh? Toki-kun. No. We didn't discuss anything. A familiar voice from Nangxiang suddenly came. This caused the blonde and red-haired girls to panic. Only Yamada Ryo raised his lazy and elegant face and spoke without hesitation, "Ah, she is back. We were just discussing your becoming a god, Ms. Yamada hasn't finished speaking yet. However, Ijishi Hunka and Kita Ikuyo used the strangling joint technique to stop the next sound. Ms. Yamada was stopped in the middle of her words. This made Nanxiang, who had just come out of the bathroom, turn his head and look at Yiji Hungzia. Hungzia, what were you talking about just now? Feeling Nangxiang's eyes and feeling the other person's charm that has improved by one level. Yujizi Hungzia looked away embarrassedly and hurriedly made an excuse, we didn't discuss anything, just some private topics for girls. Yeah. Nangxiang expressed doubts about Yiji Hongxia's words. But the other party clearly expressed his thoughts that he didn't want to express. It was impossible for him to be aggressive and continue asking. Nangxiang she will no longer pursue the case. Ijishi Hungzia here also breathed a small sigh of relief and released the palm that was covering Miss Yamada. In response, Yamada Ryo tilted his head. She actually didn't understand why the two friends wanted to hide Nangxiang's information. Instead of hiding. Why don't you make your words clear here? Procrastination is not Ryo Yamada's solitary, freewheeling style. Thinking of this, the girl with dark blue short hair took out her mobile phone without hesitation, raised her hand and sent a message to Nan Xiangxi. Nang Xiang, who had just sat down and hadn't had time to rest, glanced at his phone. Then he raised his head and looked at Yamada Ryo. Why do we need to send line messages when we are so close? After noticing that the girl with dark blue short hair made a take-a-look gesture, Nang Xiangxi shook his head and opened the phone line. The lonely base weirdo, did you get the little lonely? Nang Xiangxi. I see. It dawned on me when I was in Nangxiang. No wonder he noticed something was wrong with the three girls when he came over just now. It turned out that this issue was being discussed. Itaka Hikaru and Kita Ikuyo were relatively shy, so they did not allow the relatively bold Miss Yamada to continue talking. Looking at the message sent by the other party on the phone, Nang Xiangxi had no intention of lying to Miss Yamada. He sent the message crisply. The most beautiful boy in Tokyo, yeah. The message is sent. Nang Xiang turned his head sideways and observed the change in Miss Yamada's expression. Although I have no intention of lying. But after all, Miss Yamada also likes him. He was still more concerned about how the girl would react after learning the news. Then. The aloof bassist, how many times have you done it, how do you feel, comfortable, will you feel comfortable doing it with me in the future? The picture is of a girl looking at the screen with a curious expression on her face. Nang Xiangxi. Miss Yamada. Do you want to take a look at what you said? Nang Xiang didn't know how to answer her words for a moment. Because the other party's approach is too wild. There is no trace of loss at all. Instead, he enthusiastically asked him how he felt about his first experience. It can even be applied to herself. Nang Xiangxi shook his head speechlessly, his fingers hopping on the screen. The most beautiful boy in Tokyo, do you want to see what you said? The aloof bassist, you will do it with me in the future anyway, I want to be mentally prepared. The picture shows the serious expression of a girl with dark blue short hair. Tokyo's most beautiful boy, yes, let's do it next time. The aloof bassist, well, next time. The conversation ends here. Put away your cell phone when you are in Nangxiang. I happened to see Ryo Yamada, who also put his phone back into his bag and stared at him with lazy and elegant eyes. Have to say, talking to Ms. Yamada is indeed much freer than talking to other people. But from another perspective, this person's freedom is too much. With the people around him, he is probably the only one who can keep up with the other person's rhythm, right? Nan Xiangxi shook his head, and then looked at Yujizi Hongxia. Hongxia, could you please take me up to see the details of the room now? Hey? Oh, room, okay, I get it. Ichiki Hunka, whose mind was confused because of Yamada Ryo's words, finally remembered the purpose of coming to Nangxiang today. Not only to give them tutoring, but also to check the vacancies in the Stars Performance Hall. It's all because this guy said some weird things and made me think wildly. Itaka Hongxia couldn't help but glare at Yamada Ryo. And Yamada Ryo looked back at her. This made Yuji Hongxia couldn't help but twitch the corner of her mouth. But with this wave, it was impossible for her to say everything she just said in front of Nan Xiangxi. He had no choice but to turn his head and look at Hashijichi, who was flipping through a music magazine on the other side. Sister, Toki-kun wants to see the empty room above. Her voice was not loud, but it was enough to attract the eyes of Hiroi Kairi and Ms. Pa on one side. See the room. Ms. Pa blinked her eyes curiously, then turned to Yiji Zinga, brother Nangxiang. Well, it seems that the environment of the low-rent house that boy lives in is really bad, and there happens to be a vacant room on the ground floor of the Stars Exhibition Hall. Yiji Zinga didn't shy away and nodded directly. So, from now on, when I come to Fangxing every day, I can see the Nangxiang guy. Hiroi Kairi, who smelled of alcohol, said excitedly, "In other words, from now on, I can come over and eat at the Nangxiang guy's table every day." As soon as she said these words, everyone present was interested. Because just like Hiroikiri said, if you were really staying at the Stars Performance Hall when you were in Nangxiang, does this mean they can have breakfast and dinner in the future? When thinking of Nangxiangxi's cooking skills, every girl present felt itchy. That dish with the temperature of happiness. As long as you take one bite and then eat any dish in an outside restaurant, you will feel an indescribable feeling. Maybe I can always enjoy the meals I cooked when I went to Nangxiang in the future. Just had this idea. It's enough to get excited. Senior. Is there any room available at Stars? I want to move in too. Hiroikiri raised her palm without hesitation. Huh? There's no room for a guy like you. Please. This is the only thing I need to ask for. If it doesn't work, it's not impossible for me and Nangxiang brother to share the apartment. Hugging Yi Jizinga's thigh. That's what she said, Nangxiang. He had no sympathy for the alcoholic bassist Hashijichi and turned to look at Nangxiang. I'm not particularly interested in the senior sister. Nango Toki said words with a gentle smile that made Hiroikiri feel extremely cold. How, why is this like this? Hiroikiri looked like she had suffered a huge blow. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi. Chapter 311. She likes Nangxiang cuisine very much. In a sense, I even like it better than the alcoholic drinks such as sake and beer that I drink all the time. Now we finally have the opportunity to eat each other's food every day. Will she give up? This was really hard for her to accept. It was at this time. Nangxiangxi approached her with a smile from behind and said something unknown in her ear in front of everyone. Then Hiroikiri's expression began to struggle in a way that was visible to the naked eye in everyone's eyes. But soon, she nodded towards Nanxiang as if accepting her fate. Okay, then it's settled. Nanxiangxi glanced at her sideways, don't go back on your word. Although hesitant, Hiroikiri nodded. What did you say to her? Nangxiang. When he looked at Nangxiang strangely, Yi Jizinga asked. Nothing. Nangxiangxi waved his hand, on the condition of letting her come over every day to have a meal, let her stop smoking and drinking from now on. By the way, from now on, let her guide and finish the band's performances from time to time. You guys have a really bad character. Yi Jizinga couldn't help but open his mouth when he heard Nanxiangxi's words. She had thought about asking Hiroikiri to stop drinking. But she never expected to attack directly by seizing the opponent's weakness like Nangxiang did. This guy understands women, and even a despicable person like Hiroikiri is powerless to resist under his threat. Hungzia has to be careful so as not to fall into this guy's trap. Yi Jizinga couldn't help but think about it. Nangxiangxi actually didn't care about Yi Jizinga's thoughts. After all, it follows the direction of the simulation. If Hiroikiri continues to drink, her body will collapse by the age of 40. I remember several simulations about ending the band. This purple-haired big sister died early due to severe alcoholism in her early days. Now there is an opportunity to redeem these regrets. Nangxiangxi will naturally not be lenient. As for the additional conditions for ending the band's guided performance later. In fact, there is no need to remind Nango. Hiroikiri, as a fan of Goto Ichiri and the band that ended, would often come to watch during the simulation and make suggestions. Therefore, analyze it from a more rational perspective. In fact, it was Nangxiangxi who was at a loss there was an extra meal partner in his daily life. Chapter 228. It doesn't matter even if you fall in love. 4,300 words. You have to ask Hungzia to be careful and not fall into the trap of that boy from Nangxiang. Sitting next to the counter, sucking strawberry milk, Hoshige Ichiki was thinking while watching Nango clean up the clutter in the room on the ground floor. She is not a fool. She has now seen the situation of ending the band very clearly. First of all, Goto Kazuri and Yamada Ryo definitely have feelings for Nango Toki. It can be seen from Ryo Yamada's affectionate gestures of pinching his face and patting his head when being raped by Nango. Not to mention Goto Kazuri. This girl who was afraid of having low self-esteem even dared to confess her love to Nango on the stage of the school festival performance. Although maybe the other person's brain was overloaded at the time. But it has been basically confirmed that he is in love with Nangxiang. Fur pop. The strawberry milk in her hand was sucked clean by the blonde-aged Hoshijichi, but soon she took out another bottle and was thinking while sucking it. The 4 members of the band have unknowingly fallen into the trap of 2. If she had had her character before, she would have kicked Nangxiang Shi out of the house and would never let him near the Stars performance hall again. But Yudi's Hixinga was a little helpless. Because not only Yuji knew Hongxia, but she had also been taken care of by Nangxiang Shi on weekdays. And even though Nangxiang Shi had an intimate relationship with the girl who ended the band. But that was basically the beginning of the end of the band. Nangxiang Shi followed the trend and it was a matter of mutual consent. Not even Yuji's Hixinge could do such a thing. So she simply devised a strategy. Or rather an idea. Since I can't stop Goto Kazuri and Yamada Ryo, then she must at least protect her sister from falling into the hands of the Nangxiang succubus. For this reason, she even secretly made adjustments to her shift schedule, in order to prevent Nangxiang Shi and Ajishi Hongxia from having too much contact time. I don't know if it will be useful. Taking another deep sip of the strawberry milk, looking at Itazi Hongxia's back sweeping the floor, Itazi Zinj murmured to himself, feeling a little worried. She had seen the charm of this boy in Nangxiang. Sometimes even she feels excited. But Yidiji Zinga thought about it again and felt relieved again. I watched Hongxia grow up, and no matter what I thought, it would be impossible for me to be attracted to a boy so quickly. That's right. Due to the age difference of more than 10 years, and the fact that their mother died in a car accident early in life. It would not be an exaggeration to say that Ajishi Hongxia, the younger sister, is the one who has grown up since she was a child. Because of his cheerful personality, he is enthusiastic and generous to his friends, and he is very cute. In school, Ichiki Honka is actually particularly popular. There are many male friends and many female friends. But as the older sister, Ichiko Hoshige, she has never heard of anyone that her younger sister has been attracted to. Although Ajishi Hongxia seemed to be gentle and generous to everyone, she was only gentle and generous from the perspective of a friend and never went further. That gentleness is my sister's strongest defensive barrier. That's right. That's right. The more Ichizinj thought about it, the more he felt that there was nothing wrong with the direction of his thinking. I have to have confidence in my sister. But when it was just Nangxiang, my sister would probably break through this obstacle casually as usual, right? Just when Ichizinj was thinking this. On the other side, Nanxiangshi, who had prepared everything at the Fangxing water bar, beverage counter, suddenly raised his head. Hongxia, have you finished your work over there? Come with me to buy some ingredients. Hearing Nanxiangshi's words, Yiji Zinga, who held up his face, narrowed his eyes proudly. In order to avoid this happening, she had actually already said hello to Ajishi Hongxia. Wait until the work in the shop is completed. Let Yudi's Hai Hongxia accompany him to buy goods outside. Itaka Zinga showed a slight smile while staring at Nangxiang, who knew nothing about it. Nangxiang, maybe you want to buy ingredients with my sister, right? But I tell you, this is impossible. I'm her sister. Don't you think my sister will really listen to you and abandon me to accompany you to buy ingredients? No matter how you think about it, it's impossible. You and my sister have only known each other for more than 3 months. How could a relationship of just over 3 months compare to the 17-year bond between us sisters? She thought like this, and then. Okay. Wiping the water droplets on her hands, Yujizi Hongxia smiled sideways at Nangxiang in front of her astonished sister. Shi-kun, wait for me, I'm still a little short of finishing. Why? Yi Jizinga was stunned. Etc. Hongxia? Did you forget something? I am still here. Didn't you agree to come with me to purchase goods? And, Shijun. When did your relationship with Nangxiang become so good? Stunned. Confused. Puzzled. Looking at his sister's sweet smile, the relaxation just now no longer exists. Itakazinga didn't even bother to finish sucking the strawberry milk in his hand. He stood up and forced a smile on his face. Wait. Hongxia, have you forgotten that you want to go out with me to purchase goods later? Hey? I didn't forget. Ijishi Hongxia turned her head and looked at her sister, who looked so excited in a strange way. But sister, you can do the shopping alone, right? And there are Sister Hiroi and Miss Pa who can accompany you there. Can I go? It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter? The relationship is great, okay. Just from the title just now, Yujizinga was keenly aware of the change in the relationship between Yujizi Hongxia and Nangxiang Shi. The progress of this relationship is really scary. Because she had never heard Ijishi Hongxia call male friends by their first names since she was a child.